What up? T-Bob here.
And Jake as well.
And look at you. You done stumbled upon little OTB Saints, where we bring you all the latest black and gold coverage.
Who are the Saints going to draft? Who's going to be their quarterback? What does the salary cap look like? All that information and more.
Hope you enjoy it. Like, subscribe. New Orleans Saints. As the Saints and Panthers combined to put together one of the most unwatchable games that you will ever see on an NFL field. So unwatchable, in fact, that it could simultaneously be competitively awful and yet not exciting at all. You know, you couldn't even get a good finish down the stretch where your stomach was tight or anything. Yeah. You had to watch Derek Carr throw for 37 yards up until 8 minutes were left in the game. And then the Saints finished strong and they ended up winning 28-6. It was that was about as bad I've been someone this year who has tried to champion the enjoy the journey. A win's a win. This is the NFL. Going to the playoffs is fun. That falls on deaf ears after a performance like yesterday. Like it's one of those. It's a worst fear win where you can clearly see how bad you are, yet you still notch a win. You hurt your draft status, but you also completely tear away at any idea that you could do something fun or exciting in the playoffs, especially when you see teams like the Niners and the Eagles and the Cowboys floating around out there. So, look, I guess it was pretty fun watching Jimmy Graham make a couple plays.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Red zone struggles.
Yeah.
Fine.
So did Jimmy Graham. Turns out that'll work for
Sewell
you.
is a beast. The outside linebacker.
Yeah, he's played well the last couple weeks.
Yeah, outside when Werner was hurt, he went down, and then yesterday on special teams makes an impact play. I've been impressed with him. I've been looking for positives as well. Trust me, week to week, and he was one of them going in.
How's that going? So Jimmy Graham was a positive. All right, so that's one. Sewell's the
I
second
could
one
watch
there.
Demario Davis rush the passer all day, every day. The sack he had at the end of the game, which I know who knows who was still watching or cared or not, but the running back goes to cut him. He dives at Davis's legs. Davis allows himself to be cut and pulls like a werewolf. Like he lands on his hands and then kind of, you know how like when a werewolf runs, they like land on their hands and their back legs and they leap out again? Mm-hmm. Like he basically lets the running back just go underneath him, lands on his hands, back on his feet, and then gets Bryce Young. Like I could watch Demario Davis all day long. The offense, not so much.
Positives. Jordan Howden, who was really good at the beginning of the year, kind of disappeared a little bit in the middle portion. I thought he had a really good game yesterday, led the team in tackles, had a couple of plays in the backfield. That's a positive. That's a guy that you drafted. Again, had a really quick flash. And then, look, the NFL catches up to everybody, and then you have to make the adjustment. Yeah. So it's exciting to see him maybe making that adjustment because there feels like there's some real value getting him that late in the draft because he's been a player that's been like starter value. And typically the first 3 rounds you're trying to get that. So if you get in the 4th, 5th, 6th round type area and you get a starter, that feels like real value.
Well, I know a lot of people were like, oh, you got A.T. Perry this late in the draft. Like, he's going to be the steal of the draft. Might be Jordan Howden. Yeah. I mean, there's people around the league talking like, look at this guy, like this young player. He's stepping in. He looks like a veteran already. That was a really good pick.
Yeah, I think both players, Howden way more than A.T. Perry, but Perry is playing pretty well. I mean, he played, probably a little less than half the snaps, maybe right at half the snaps, and I thought he had a couple of nice moments, like even without the ball.
And so I think Tyrann Mathieu probably said it best after the game. He said, quote, "You would hope a win like this could kind of help galvanize us and really continue to kind of push us forward. But obviously, that's not the Eagles. So you can't get too confident, right? So I think it's important for us to kind of keep working, keep trying to get better, keep trying to improve because no disrespect to the Panthers, there's a bunch of teams out there that are much better. No disrespect."
No disrespect.
Pull a little Ricky Bobby there.
That's not the Eagles. The Panthers have more issues than Vogue. Bryce Young, 13 of 36, 137 yards, 3.8 yards per attempt, was sacked 4 times. And T-Bob, you have it here in your notes. Looks tiny.
My God, Bryce Young looks so small out there, dude. Every time he gets hit, I'm like,
well, you remember the pictures that came out of training camp, and everybody's like, oh, no, it's the camera angle. Like, he's not that small. No, he's that small.
He's a little fella.
Like, he's actually that
small.
He's a
tiny boy.
Yes.
Yeah, he's a little
tiny lad.
God, I mean, in college, though, in the SEC going against other giants, he would find a way to manipulate the pocket and find windows. I know the NFL is even obviously better than the SEC, but I thought that we would see some of that from him. He looks lost. He looks like he has now.
He had flashes in the pocket, but ultimately it didn't. Yeah, it didn't mount.
That's been a big
anything.
surprise. I'm not saying that I thought he would be MVP or anything, but that's a surprise that he's struggling so bad.
And so when you see that quote from Tyrann Mathieu, it's not hard to see why. I mean, you gained 206 total yards. Again, it's always funny when things like this are pointed out, but as Mike Triplett wrote in New Orleans Football, Derek Carr had 37 yards passing with 8 minutes, 12 seconds left in the game. And this offensive line is not very good. Although I think, I mean, I don't know.
No,
they're not good. They're not good at all. I was just going to say that at least Andrus Peat has maybe stabilized something at left tackle a bit.
I'm glad you pointed that because I do need to be fair. I thought James Hurst played well yesterday. I thought McCoy played well yesterday. We don't know about Trevor Penning. He played 2 snaps, and so that's your first round pick playing
in on jumbo package.
2 snaps. I think he
gets in on jumbo when you're a first round pick. Are you kidding me?
He gets in on like jumbo plus maybe, like when you had as many as you possibly can. So they've been okay. Ramczyk didn't have a great day yesterday, and Cesar Ruiz continues to be.
I feel bad. He's like me out there. He's on the ground.
He's
all
bad.
the time. He's on the ground all the time. You can't be
lost.
on the ground, dude. If you're on the ground in the NFL, you're not athletic enough. It's
and that's why
crazy.
I mean, I'm not trying to throw shade at center, but maybe that's why he was a really good center at Michigan.
No doubt.
And he's protected by 2 guards, and you drafted him thinking he can make the change. That's not easy. I hate it's a pet peeve of mine when people are like, oh, well, he did this, he can do that. It's like, no, every position in football is different. Left tackle to right tackle is different. There's a reason why we pay the left tackle. We don't pay the right tackle. And he's protecting the blind side, but also he's going against a dog and an edge rusher. Like every position is going to be different. Your footwork's going to be different. There's just so many things that are going to be different. And like him trying to play guard in the NFL, I would bet he's the lowest graded starting guard in the NFL.
Could we look that up actually?
Yeah, we can.
I'm sure we can.
Yesterday, by the way, in case you're wondering, 32.
And ultimately, though, I think the story of the New Orleans Saints and where they're at right now is told by the fans in the stands. I mean, Mario, you called that game. I saw a lot of images coming out of the Superdome. You could see it on the broadcast. It's a dead building.
Yeah, it was sleepy.
Tens of thousands of empty seats. Like you said, sleepy atmosphere, frustration boiling over. And to me, that should or will be the real death knell of the current regime, right? Because at this point, you're hurting the bottom line. And even if you say, the financial impact is indiscernible when you're talking about just raw ticket sales because the valuation of the team goes up and you're making money here or there. And I'm not a smart enough finance man to know whether or not that's the case. But even if that's your argument, I would say that, okay, well, you're doing brand damage. Beyond whatever you're losing in ticket sales, you're losing confidence in your fan base. And if you bring back these guys again, well, you will continue to lose said confidence. And as a consumer, what's the most powerful thing you can do? Vote with your wallet, with your actions. And that's exactly what Saints fans have decided to do. Now, normally that can be hard to do, right? Like, okay, I'm a consumer of college football. The committee choosing Alabama over Florida State disgusts me. Okay? They showed the great and powerful regular season of college football. No, it was just an old man behind the curtain, or in this case, a group of old men behind the curtain. It was all show. It was all pomp and circumstance and fake, right? But I'm obsessed with college football. I want to boycott the playoff. I can't boycott the playoff. Because I love college football. I don't want to see these games played. I want to watch Michigan versus Alabama and see if Jim Harbaugh and this team can overcome it. Like, I'm going to watch, okay? So I'm a sucker in this case. It appears that this Saints team, despite the deep love that the city and the Who Dat Nation has for them, are so bad that they're actually making it easy for people to vote with their wallets and say, no, you know what? I have better things to do on this Sunday. I would rather stay at home and watch Red Zone. Or stay at home and watch all of the NFL, or go watch that new Godzilla movie, or go do this with my family, or whatever the case may be. And that ultimately, I think, speaks louder than any of the on-field frustration, the 3-game losing streak, any of the losses, losing to Josh Dobbs. If you lose to Tommy DeVito, nothing will hurt as bad as that empty stadium.
I agree with that. It's one of the best venues in the NFL. It is one of those, and we put this kind of, rarefied air as far as NFL stadiums that have a college feel. Superdome, when it's rocking, is one of those. I'd go Arrowhead, maybe in Seattle. Heinz Field was one of those, but I mean, it's not many. And the Superdome was in that class. And I understand the frustrations. Look, it takes a lot to take your family to any kind of major sporting event. Like it is a full day, and it costs a lot of money.
Yep.
And so all the things that you just said, T, do I want to pay to go watch that? I'd have a hard time advocating for it right now.
That's what I'm saying. And ultimately, look, I think that's how you let ownership know how you feel when you're a consumer. And I think we started to have the conversation, guys. And Dennis Allen was asked about this, and he got very defensive and didn't want to engage with it. But it is a legitimate line of questioning. Last year, Jameis Winston was benched for an accumulation of injuries, okay? We have had multiple defensive players in post-game interviews, I'm talking about opponents, defensive players, talk about how we know Derek Carr, if you get to Derek Carr, he gets rattled and he gets bad. So that was already the case. Now you have Derek Carr playing through a shoulder injury, multiple concussions. Apparently we learned after the game he's playing through 3 broken ribs right now, and you can feel that. So you had a guy who already gets antsy, who already was susceptible to pass rush, and now he's more terrified than ever, clearly, of getting hit. And so if you're going to bench Jameis Winston, and again, it's not like Carr can fall back on some great on-field success. This isn't Drew Brees playing through shattered ribs, poking into his lungs and everything else, but it's okay because Drew Brees is still out there making plays, winning games. Like, where is the justification for not at least letting Derek Carr just go get healthy? The exact same thing that you did with Jameis Winston last year. And you're going to tell me, oh, it's that you're paying him money? It's that you're doing this. He gives you the best chance to win? I don't know that I believe that. But yeah, he just looks, I don't know, man. He just looks absolutely terrified out there right now.
Yeah, and it's well said because already in the pocket, he did feel like he was antsy. Actually, Mario did a really good job of impersonating it near one of the breaks where he's bouncing around in the pocket. And now, like, he already didn't have belief that it was going to hold up, and he was ready to try to get out of the pocket as quick as he can. And once you get there, it's already bad, and you're not going to have a lot of success. But now, like T said, with the injuries, you can tell it's even more so. And so as an offensive lineman, and if we're going to be critical of them, we also need to point out when you don't know where the spot is as far as where your quarterback is going to be, well, then you don't know what to block for. Because if the spot is changing when it doesn't need to change, and then you get, a defensive player that all he got, has to do is roll to the outside and he gets a sack, there's nothing you can do. Like, if you're blocking because you think Derek Carr's in the pocket and everything's solidified, but he's jittery in the pocket and he rolls out too fast and there's a sack, that's not on the offensive lineman.
Yeah.
That's on Derek Carr. And so as bad as they have been, I shouldn't say that in the totality because I actually think that McCoy and Hurst have played much better than they started the season. Ramchek's been a little up and down, whatever. But also they're not getting a lot of help. And so that's a difficult situation for an offensive lineman that doesn't know what he's protecting.
Well, and you could see the frustration boil over.
Oh, yeah.
As Derek Carr and Eric McCoy getting into it, which, again, like, I don't want to make too much of it. When you're putting together that sort of offensive performance and you have a bunch of alpha males, of course, frustration is going to boil over. I was talking to my old man last night, and he was talking about how one time him and Bob Whitfield got into it. Like, Bob Whitfield was mad he didn't get selected for the Pro Bowl, but it's because, like, the Falcons weren't winning or whatever. And he's, like, playing off on the first quarter. My old man's, like, ready to fight him on the sideline. And he told Bob, he's like, look, man, you may whoop my ass, but you're in for a fight. Like, I'll bite your nuts off. Like, you want to do this right now? Cameras be down. I don't give a damn. Like, we gonna fight. And eventually they managed to calm down. So this stuff does happen. But and so I don't want to make too much of a deal of it, but there are cracks in this team, and and they're
Major
starting
cracks,
to show
I would
more and
say.
more. I mean, look at the quote from Tyron after the game. You got Mike Thomas now pretty consistently tweeting, subtweeting Derek Carr and his performances. It's just bad vibes all over the place. Again, I don't know, regardless of, because now you're again tied for the lead in the NFC South at 6-7 with the Bucs and the Falcons. But I can't imagine that there is anything that this current regime could do to save to save themselves after what we have had to witness this season. Wow, just amazing black and gold takes right there, Jake.
I don't think I've ever heard any takes that are better than the two guys that just gave you that take.
And you can keep getting them by going ahead and liking, subscribing, ringing the bell to get notifications when we post. Have a great day. We'll see you on the next OTB Saints.